So I had a conversation with Jack, and he said, "Listen, man, I got a topic." And I said, "Jack, we can just go home early." He said, "But I got a topic." I said, "But we can go home early. I can have some peace. I can watch TV with my wife and kid." He said, "But I got a topic." And I said, "Fine, Jack, you got a topic. So let's get to the reason why we're here."
It's time for the main event.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Two Brothers and a Shot of Milk. And today we're taking a break from reviewing stuff, and we're gonna answer a question. We're gonna answer a question that our own Shot of Milk proposed. We're gonna answer this question. Was Endgame too good for its own good? Marvel conditioned us as moviegoers, but have they changed the rules to their own game? Are the current Marvel movies and content really as bad as we think they are? Did films like Endgame and Infinity War set the bar so high that we're destined to feel unsatisfied from here on out? Or is it just nostalgia and judgment clouding our judgment? What do you guys think? Was Endgame too good for its own good? And are things as bad as it seems?
I'm gonna say Endgame was good. All right.
I mean, Endgame was great.
Right. It has definitely spoiled us, and they definitely set the bar high. But as of right now, first of all, there's just too much Marvel content. Period.
Right.
Where they're just churning out just crap.
So
and
much
then we got
Feige said they're gonna pull back on the Disney
Right.
Plus shows. It's too much. Yeah.
Yes, because I'm pretty sure that the funding's divided all over the place, and certain places are hurting, certain shows are hurting, and you can tell. I do feel like I think it might be a little bit too early to tell right now because they're kind of at the beginning of Phase 5, and they're kind of at the beginning of the story building. I mean, if you want to compare it to like the beginning of like Avengers,
Compared to the beginning of Phase 1.
yeah, the
Iron
beginning of
Man
Phase
1, 2,
What
Captain
was
America
Phase 3?
4.
I couldn't even tell you what I thought Phase 3 was.
Now you
Yeah,
know
what was
Phase 3. You don't know what Phase 4 was.
Are we out of Phase 4? We're on to Phase 5?
This is Phase 5.
Yeah.
Wakanda Forever was the last Phase 4 film. Phase 3 ended with Endgame. Phase 4 was just filler.
That's what I'm
Phase
saying.
4 was
All of Phase 4 was all of Phase 4 was filler for what?
Yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, The Eternals, all the TV shows. So I'm sure I'm missing something.
wow.
No Way Home was great. That's for sure.
Yeah,
but it
then
also didn't connect to anything.
Yeah. Which Spider-Man films never do, because I think, the whole Sony collaboration thing, they kind of have to stand on its own because they don't have full permission to use a character the way they want to, as much as they want to, without paying. Yeah, I think Endgame was too good, but not for its own good. Endgame was the culmination of years of movies and phases, and it ended. Like it ended. It did the thing that most TV shows have a hard time doing, which is it had a finale.
Yeah.
So I think the issue is
it really stuck the landing.
And it stuck the landing.
Yes.
Like literally, Phase 1 started with this pompous, arrogant guy builds a suit of armor in a cave, saves his life, becomes a hero, and ends with that same guy snapping, sacrificing his life for the greater good. Talk about a freaking arc.
Yeah.
So now, Phase 4 and Phase 5, but Phase 4 didn't start the way Phase 1 did. Just one movie at a time, slowly building into something bigger. It was almost like they were in the same game as Phase 3 instead of just dialing it back and refocusing it.
But it could have. It seemed like what they wanted to do was play with the multiverse, which seems like it's still kind of what they want to do, but it feels so not connected and inconsequential. Like we keep watching these movies that, for all intents and purposes, feel like they should be building towards the next unsurmountable thing. But I keep walking away from the theater going, when's it going to start connecting?
But I think it's before the connection, before the big bad, phase one started with characters they made us fall in love with.
Right.
First, Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Thor, Guardians. Like we fell in love with these characters first. Before we saw glimpses of Thanos. We didn't even like feel like we're on the trajectory to Thanos until towards the end of phase two.
Yeah.
So right now, these beginning phases, I think they're trying to build. They try with the Eternals. They try to do it with them, like build new characters, have us care about them. It didn't work because they had to spend so much time explaining why they weren't in the fight.
But it also wasn't. But Eternals also didn't connect to anything. It was essentially a standalone.
I think that's what they almost need. I feel like there doesn't need to be a big bad. Start how you start with phase one. We establish new heroes in the world, or old heroes in the world, in their world. We don't need the incoming threat yet. Like Avengers dealt with Loki and sort of Thanos. Like it didn't hit the fan until like 10 movies later. So I'm saying build slower, maybe.
But Guardians is an example where that worked. Guardians came out, it was basically a standalone. We introduced to a whole new cast of characters, and then your post-credit tease kind of started saying
Because
we're in the
Thanos
Thanos
is
world.
Gamora's father.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Thanos was not a threat or part of our phases like that yet. Not enough to connect them. Not yet. He was just
Okay,
teased.
but we're so beyond phase one now. We've gone through 2, 3, and
I know.
4.
And I think phase five needs to be like phase one. We can't just drop Kang in the hole. It needs to like make us fall in love with the characters who are going to lead
Right.
the phase.
Yeah.
And then start sprinkling in the big bad like he did before. Avengers 2, they fought Ultron. Had nothing to do with Thanos.
That's true. Yeah.
Iron Man fought Ironmonger, and then Iron Man 2, he fought Whiplash. Nothing to do with Thanos. Like Captain America, Winter Soldier, he's going against Bucky. Nothing to do with Thanos.
Yes, but they were building the Tesseract. They were building the Infinity Stones essentially throughout the films. Why there was
Not
a
in Captain America, Winter
No.
Soldier.
Yeah, nah.
But what they did, but there was an emotional connection because Bucky was going to play character. No, it
And I
didn't.
believe they also introduced Black Panther in Winter Soldier.
Yes, they did. Civil
Right.
War. Civil War.
Civil War.
But Civil War happened because of the events in Winter Soldier, because Bucky and Steve let him go and all that stuff. So although it wasn't connecting to Thanos, there was an emotional connection. So I'm saying, forget Kang, forget the multiverse. Show me the characters that are going to lead this phase, create their emotional dilemmas, and then sprinkle in the stuff like they did with Thanos.
I guess what's funny about it is, I wouldn't say I thought Civil War was very good, actually. I didn't enjoy Civil War. I like the characters they brought to Civil War, but it was hard for me to remove the source material content from the title itself, which made it hard for me to get into the backdrop of that movie. And I would say, even Captain America 1, I didn't think was a good film. It basically played like one montage after another series of montages. Yeah, it was like
Rocketeer. Yeah,
it's like the Rocketeer.
So it's not like
director.
Was it really? Well, there you go.
I think they gotta say.
So it wasn't like I thought all the movies in Phase 1 were good films per se, but there was something that felt intentional and connected. Something was building towards something, and I could go with the ride.
It was an emotional connection. Captain America 1 wasn't great, but you're seeing Steve Rogers become the hero that's going to work in other films. You didn't like Civil War, but you saw T'Challa not kill the dude that was responsible for his dad dying, creating his character and his leadership. So when we get into Black Panther, we know who he is. We see a falling out between Iron Man and Captain America in Civil War, which is the reason why Thanos was able to come to Earth. The Avengers were split. So it's like the emotional ramifications of films between characters we loved was also part of how Endgame worked. It wasn't just because of the big bad. It wasn't just because of this universal space monster. It was an intimate story between these people. And that's what I'm not even sure with the new phase which characters we're supposed to be watching.
Right.
Like, who's
Yeah.
the ones that's going to be at the end of the day? Like, who's the Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor that's bringing us in this new journey?
Yeah.
I guess
'Cause
Ant-Man.
most of our characters are not going to be doing movies anymore. We're not going to be playing these characters or can't play the characters. Yeah. Also with that, my concern is the ones that are still riding through the rest. Like, how long are we going to do? Like another 10 years? Because people are
That's the
aging.
plan, Rich. They already talked. They
People are
already showed
aging
us
rapidly.
Phase 6 of it. That's the plan.
I don't know. I mean, I know technology and medicine is advancing, and people can look younger and stay up there. But man, how some of these guys gonna be looking, when they hitting 60?
Well,
Well,
I mean, I think they're not able to, them not being able to use Spider-Man the way they want to hurts it, because that
Yeah,
is the natural. He is the natural person to take the torch from Iron Man as far as the leader of the next
yeah,
phase of movies. Like, literally, he was Iron Man Jr. for most of his tenure, but they can't utilize him like they want. Doctor Strange should be, but I feel like his movie was inconsistent. Like, he didn't really matter.
and of all the
right.
movies that should have stuck the landing, that one really needed to. That one needed to be one of the ones.
He needed to. So I don't. To answer your question, I don't think it's nostalgia clouding our judgment. I think that Marvel were the underdogs. So phase one, phase two, even though they didn't have the best movies all the time, they played it like we may not get another one. So everything was important. Now they're the big guys on campus. Now they don't mind just throwing out a phase that's just fillers. Like, they would have never done that back in the 2000s.
Mm,
They
yeah,
couldn't.
Well, maybe it's a little more tied to the news segment than we realize. The fact that the editors of the Ant-Man movie said, "Hey, you are making us pump out content at an alarming rate, literally twice the speed we should be pumping it out." It goes to say why some of these films are maybe suffering. They're maybe people don't have the time to really carve the stories out a little more, be a little more precious with making sure that the content they're putting out is the content they want to put out.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Feige's right that pulling back some of the content is actually just going to safeguard the content that is put out.
yeah,
It feels like, when I look back, it just felt like it was simpler. It was
yeah.
simpler. We didn't have magic in phase one, outside of Thor, who says science and magic are the same, because we didn't need that in phase one. And then when we did get Doctor Strange, he was our only source of magic. We didn't need a whole world of magic for phase one and two. Like, we just didn't need it.
Yeah.
Now in this phase, you telling me we got the quantum realm? You telling me Blade is coming with vampires? Like, how is all this going to?
Well,
Yeah.
we saw Blade's World got flushed out in a special. Hey, sorry if you can hear that. I think there's like some sort of high speed chase. There's helicopters going on in the background.
You're
So
at
if
Jason's
that's
house, so that makes
distracting, I
sense.
apologize. You know, Harold Clurman. Uh, Harold Clurman is one of the founders of the group theater back in the 1930s, America's first major theater company. He said in in regards to theater, he said we need more duds, we need more flops, we need more things that don't hit, so we can appreciate the ones that do when they come along.
Hmm.
And so I'm optimistic that I think Clurman was onto something when he was talking about things being oversaturated, and there can be an appreciation for these things because maybe they help accent the really good ones when they come. When we get a Spider-Man No Way Home, when we get Avengers Endgame, we're like, yeah, all these other ones weren't great, but this is, and we can really
Yeah, I can see
identify
that.
with it being
But
great.
I
I
think
can
we
see
would think
that.
it's great without seeing the bad ones.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to see a good one before you see a bad one. But I can see what he's talking about with that one because I watched a lot of just horrible zombie
You
movies
watch terrible horror films, Rich.
and horror films. So when good ones come around, I'm like, this is great. This is good. Like the Knock at Your Door is really not really a horror film,
No
but
spoilers. I haven't seen it
I'm not
yet.
gonna not gonna spoil it. but I'm not going to spoil it. But in my opinion,
So clearly he didn't listen to the end of that podcast.
I didn't.
yeah,
I did not.
What were we talking about for like 20 minutes?
I did
yeah.
not.
But it was a good damn movie, and like people were talking about, yo, M. Night Shyamalan, and he just tried. Because I heard some people say they didn't like it, which everyone's going to have their opinions on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, in my opinion, I was like, yo, this is it.
Well, he got dropped from the trip.
Huh?
M. Night got dropped.
From really?
Yep. After not.
I don't know about any of that.
Yeah.
I don't need these movies to be good necessarily. No one sets out to make a bad movie. So sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't hit.
Right.
Jack didn't like Civil War, but there's elements in Civil War that matter. Like I said, T'Challa having forgiveness, seeing the kind of king he's going to be, the falling out of Steve and Tony, that's going to play later. So it's like, it doesn't always need to be good. There just needs to be things in it that matter. You know, you're not gonna have a good movie all the time, but the elements in there can still propel you forward. And that's, I think, the problem here is like, what elements are being propelled forward? And in Ant-Man, there are things in it, but Phase 4 was so uninspiring that I mean, if Ant-Man came out right after Endgame, we'd hate it, but I think we'd have more optimism.
Yeah,
we wouldn't have been let down as much.
I'm sorry, but we also wouldn't have seen Loki at that point. And so all we know is, holy hell, what's going on with Kang? And Jonathan Majors is great performance, you know. If
you had Spider-Man No Way Home and then Ant-Man, we would have been like,
it still could have worked. But the problem with a movie like Ant-Man is we did have the Loki series, and it did set all these things up, and we did dive into the multiverse, and then the multiverse was open with Spider-Man, and then the multiverse was kind of reopened with Doctor Strange, but didn't matter.
All in completely different ways.
Yeah, and then the multiverse is open up with Loki, and it apparently doesn't matter.
And then What If? Don't forget the What If series.
And the What If stuff, but it kind of also doesn't. It's just like everything doesn't. It's exactly what Feige's saying. The thing is so oversaturated that they're having a hard time, I think, committing to what needs to be committed to. Because if they committed to Loki, Jonathan Majors' character is out. You know, if they committed to Ant-Man, Kang is a problem.
No, not really, because Jonathan Majors' character is just always there because there's always a Kang in the multiverse.
I know, but what happened at the end of Loki is he opens the Pandora's box. He stops controlling it. And so if that mattered...
But you still had another badder Kang would have came, and
he already did, because in post-credit Loki, they looked up and saw a statue of Kang.
Right. Exactly. That's my point. And so if the content matters, by the time we're watching this content, it already mattered. So they're not actually paying homage to their own.
They didn't really piggyback off of Loki. They kind of like went backwards to go forward.
Exactly.
I can see them doing. Huh?
I'm sorry. In the quantum realm, I understand. Now that I'm really thinking about it, it's like the quantum realm is like its own pocket, like universe. It's not connected to the actual universe itself, because nothing that happens in there affects like the multiverse. Because that's why Kang was sent there. He was sent there to be imprisoned. So, which means whatever he did there doesn't affect anything. Even though he can build a whole army, if he didn't have a way of getting out of the quantum realm, it didn't mean nothing.
Right.
So now that he's dead, and now the other Kangs know that he's dead, it's a whole problem. So the multiverse is still a thing.
So
but nothing. But understand this: nothing changed
because that's not true. I
say right now it's too early to say nothing changed.
They did, and I agree with you, Jack. They did 2 hours of movie just to have 5 minutes of something that matters. And the 5 minutes of something that matters is all the Kangs in the post-credit scene going, that world knows our existence. We need to go kill them.
Right.
That's the only thing.
I understand, and I read that comic after the movie, so I get kind of context of who those Kangs were. But
Loki didn't do that.
the Kang in the multiverse was imprisoned in the multiverse, so him dying subsequently didn't change anything throughout the multiverses, other than the other three Kangs' awareness that Kang is dead. Which how they're joined to the multiverse, the quantum realm reality, I'm not entirely sure, but somehow they were. But at the end of the Loki series, all those Kangs are set loose.
No, but here's the thing. The end of Ant-Man, the only thing that matters is those Kangs are saying we're going to go to that world and destroy
Yeah.
that world.
Right.
It's the only thing you have to take from Ant-Man. Is now the fight is being brought to home turf. That's
that
it.
Multiverse, to that whatever.
We spent 2 hours of something that doesn't really matter to have a post credit to say, this is our reason for coming to where the Avengers live.
Right. Because
Kang,
because all the other Kangs were contained by Loki's Kang, pretty much. And now that he's got done.
But
right?
Loki set him loose.
So
right. He set him loose. Right.
Yeah.
He changed things around there. But then I'm assuming, again, this is me just making things up as I go along. The next bad Kang, they imprison in the multiverse or the quantum realm. So he would have been the major problem.
Loki freed them. They were catching wreck. That Kang is like, I need to kill all these Kangs.
Yes.
They imprison him in the quantum verse. Ant-Man kills him. Those Kangs become aware that this dude knows our existence. We need to go to that Earth.
Right.
That's how it tracks. I'm not saying we needed a whole 2-hour movie for that, Jack. But that's how it tracks.
Yeah.
The post credit. Ant-Man was, and this isn't unique. Marvel films have done this in the past. We'll watch a whole movie only for the post credit to link us to the next one. We've seen a few of those do that. Not a whole lot, but a few of them.
But yes, okay, but I guess
we'll watch a whole Captain Marvel just so the post credit links us. Oh, the beeper went off. Oh, that's who you're talking about.
Oh yeah, sure, okay, yes, but that was also a prequel, so they put in their own plausible deniability why it didn't need to tie in the same way. So it's not necessarily a great example.
Some would say when Loki went to go see what was his actual? He had a name.
Yeah, but at the end of Loki,
that was a prequel. Some can say when they visited that Kang and the timeline of things to come. That was a prequel.
Well, because the butterfly effect that happened in that Loki series affected all times throughout time. So it would have been like Kang had always been present.
Right. That's why Kang has never been a problem. So, Jack, you answer your question.
No, but that's why Kang would have always been a problem. Because in the Loki series, he retroactively affects all of time throughout time.
So I think what happened in the Loki series, that's very true. And because that's true, the Kang in Ant-Man was killing all those Kangs, waging war because of what Loki set up. That Kang was trapped in the quantum realm because of what he's doing. Like I said, Ant-Man kills him. The other Kangs are like, holy crap, they know of our existence. We need to attack their world. So Loki kind of...
But that also doesn't make sense because we know that particular Kang had been trapped in the quantum realm for years and years.
Yeah. So I think it's hard to look at time moving like how we see it because we're dealing with TVA, we're dealing with quantum realms. We haven't really figured out how time moves anyway.
But I don't think they've actually figured out how time moves either.
Yeah, they might not. Plausible deniability, as you would say.
Oh, of course.
Because when Ant-Man was trapped, he said, what, it was 5 years in the outside world he was trapped. But he said to him it was like a moment. Yeah. But then when what's her name got trapped for 30 years, she was actually trapped for 30 years.
30 years. And then the ants, and the ants had thousands of years in descent.
Right.
And you're right. You know, the ending of that movie would have been way better if, the Wasp went back to help Ant-Man. Spoiler alert for anyone who hadn't seen it. Wasp went back to help Ant-Man, and then, subsequently the portal opens up right behind them. But when they went back through, their kid should have been older. And probably Michael Douglas and whoever should have been dead at that point because they aged out.
And I'm pretty sure these wonderful, brilliant writers thought of that, but that would take Ant-Man out of the game. And they want to keep him in the game. And I'm sure they don't want to like fast track their universe 30 years in the future.
And then,
That would
this is
out the game.
But this goes back to they're pumping out content at an alarming rate where they're not able to vet their content, make better choices. Then, because if the three of us can sit here and hash something out over 5 minutes and come up with something that's arguably a better ending, then there's a problem in their writer's room that they don't have the time to do that. Who's calling these shots?
I think these movies have a whole corporation that's giving them freaking deadlines that are not conducive to, like the FX guy said, like these deadlines are like Ant-Man has to come out top of 2023. We're not ready. Ant-Man has to come out top of 2023, regardless.
But you know what the most important thing of any movie is? It's the script, man. It's the script is the foundation in which everyone is going to lay their work upon. The actors, the directors, cinematographer, the editor, it all comes down to, did you take the time to lay the foundation of your house correct? And if the script ain't right, if the story ain't right, at the end of the day, doesn't matter how pretty it is, doesn't matter how good the acting is, it's gonna ultimately...
It's tough, man. IGN said, I didn't read the whole article, but they were like, Kang is a wonderful villain, but should not have been the villain in Ant-Man 3. He's not the guy you introduce in Ant-Man. The tones is just not, he's not the guy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It doesn't work here. If anything, I'd rather you have the Guardians stumble upon him, like or something. But Ant-Man literally is more of your Spider-Man, although he fights other guys in suits, he's more of your friendly neighborhood hero. He's not your intergalactic guy. I know they introduced the quantum realm to kind of be that, but that's not, we want to see Michael Pena. Like we want this, we want, right? Like we want the ragtag group. We don't want
just
that
telling the
with
whole
Ant-Man.
story about
we we don't want that. We want Kang, like Loki series. Yes, freaking y'all didn't do nothing with Thor: Love and Thunder. That could have been a place for Kang.
Yeah.
Or make Gore have more legs than just a one-off film. Like that was like watching Bond. Like you got rid of the villain in the movie that we're watching it in. That's old school.
Yeah. Well, don't get me started on the Gore thing again.
I don't ever like to say this, and I'm never going to say it again. But Jack's right.
Oh.
Jack's right. As much as I defend these things, you are right. They have conditioned us to go in and go, what's the next episode? As much as I want to say, just give me a good movie, whether it connects or not, it doesn't matter. As much as I want to say that, at the end of the day, we never asked Marvel to make us feel like we're watching a TV series. They went out of their way to say, stay for after the credits. See what's coming next. So they created that anticipation, and they had a whole phase where they let us down. And I don't think it's because of this.
2.
1. No, we're still in phase 5. We can't count phase 5. 1 phase. Right. Phase 4.
Listen, and this is the one thing that's got me a little gun shy about what's going on in the DC world right now is they're kind of modeling their thing after Marvel's thing now. And
I think.
Yeah, man, it's
phase 1.
There are pros and cons. There are some red flags for me that I hope are troubleshot in a good way.
No, DC is doing what Marvel, they're doing like phase 1. They're like, we're stripping away all this stuff trying to chase Marvel, and we're going to give you characters and movies. We're going to earn the right to cross them over. That's why all the movies, they laid out their 10 years, and it did not end with a Justice League. Here's a Superman movie. Here's a Batman movie. Here's a Waller series. It never ended with a crossover. He was like, no, you're going to get to know these characters in these movies. And that's what Marvel did to a degree. And now it's, and I guess they were kind of, I mean, Ant-Man kind of does it. I mean, I didn't enjoy it, but it was a self-contained, not self-contained film.
Yeah.
You know,
We're following this family. We're getting to know this family.
tell you what would be fun though, with James Gunn over at DC now, and we know he's been in bed with Marvel for quite some time. He could be the bridge we need for the DC Marvel crossover.
I don't even know if I want it, Jack. I don't even know if
You
I
would
want
pay.
it.
You would watch that movie.
Of course
You
I
would
would.
watch that
Of course I
movie.
would.
You'd be like, take my money.
The problem is, I should be like, take my money. But DC having to restart their universe and Marvel giving us a phase 4 we don't like, now is not the time to cross them over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish
Yeah,
it was a
you're right.
time. I wish we were like, come on.
We probably like a good 10, maybe 20 years off of that.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Because they
So
both
when
got to be like hitting it. They
So
both
when
got
we're
to be
80.
killing it.
Pretty much, yeah.
So what?
When we're 80.
When we're 80.
Turn on the TV for me.
Yo, real talk. I don't think you guys fully understand. DC laid out a complete slate. And by the time we get to the end of their phase 1, we're 50, guys.
Yeah.
Hey,
You think
say
about that?
Yeah.
We're 50 years old by the time we get to DC's phase 2. We're 50 years old by the time we get to phase 6.
Yeah, we gonna be old, son.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Just
Think
a
about
number.
that. Think about that.
Dun, 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 dun.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
All right. Well, so in
conclusion, my opinion, I want to hear your opinions. Yes, there have been some bad movies, and I think the ones that are bad, in my opinion. I don't think that's nostalgia talking. I did not like and don't like Iron Man 3. It didn't really do anything to set anything up. I don't get it. They're allowed to have bad movies as long as enough of them are connecting. I don't think it's nostalgia. I think phase 4 has been a mess. Amongst the geek community, we're all like, this is a mess.
Yeah.
They should have had a Black Widow movie that mattered. Instead, they came out with one after she died. That's a prequel to before she died. Yeah. But at least we get little Black Widow in there. So that plays into something at least. So it feels like this whole phase 4 was like, instead of slowly building after Endgame, y'all were still trying to make events. But you ain't have no event to make.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. What do you guys think in conclusion?
Go ahead, Jack. I know you got. Actually, I'll go because I know Jack gonna be all over it. Wait, what was the question again?
Just like, do you think that? Because the question really is: are we too hard on this? Are we being too judgmental? Is it as bad as we think it is, or is Endgame too good, or is it exactly how we're seeing it?
I mean, two things can be true at once. Endgame was as good as we think it is. It was a good, if not great, movie. They wrapped it up, chef's kiss, masterfully. And how it's starting off now is a little shaky. So I'm gonna say yes and yes.
Yes and yes, Jackie boy.
I think a lot of it has to do with quality over quantity. And I do think that Marvel has oversaturated themselves and they're pumping out stuff at a rate where, I wouldn't have minded having a second Superman movie I could complain about, even if it was poor quality, but maybe the fact that it never happened could actually be better. And maybe that's what's going on with some of this Marvel content. They are committed to pumping it out, but, fast food style is still just fast food. And ultimately, it's not satiating, And so I
It's kind
think
of
I think that
satiating.
yeah, but I think that's part of the equation. I would encourage them that their fans are fans, they're loyal fans. We're going to pay our money to see your content because we've been fans long before you've been running the content. And so we'll keep being fans and supporting the content. So take your time to make sure that the content is what we want to be giving our money to, instead of I keep walking away feeling underserved. I keep walking away recently from these films going, man, why wasn't that what it could have been? You
And
know?
if you know Phase 4 isn't going to connect, like advertise it that way. Phase 4 is going to be like Marvel one shots.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then we'd be like,
Yeah,
okay, cool. Give me
right.
some good one shots. I'm down.
Right. Yeah,
It was
yes, I
so
think so.
ambiguous.
You don't have to lie to us just to get us to pay money. We'll pay the money and we'll be happier paying the money if you're upfront about what you're selling us. And right now, there's a disconnect for me. I'm like, I don't know entirely what I think. I wasn't confused before. I knew they were building towards a thing, and ultimately we got that thing, and it was a nice payoff. Now, I cannot tell you how hurt I was by that Doctor Strange movie. Like
Man.
that
You know,
movie, that movie was everything, and then it was ultimately it really meant very little. And this Ant-Man movie should have been kind of everything, and at the end of it, it's ultimately very little. And the thing about the Black Panther movies is they're
they're one
standalone movies,
shots.
and that's why I don't have a problem with them. I'm like, they're not telling me they're building on top of anything, so cool. But the problem with the Eternals movie is you kept telling me you're building on top of this world that exists, but
And
then it
they're
doesn't
too
either.
powerful not to be involved.
Right.
It's not like
Yeah.
Spider-Man where we can do this kind of New York City story because he's Spider-Man. It's like these guys are gods. How are they not part of the bigger equation here? It's
Yeah.
impossible.
So I think
Um,
you gotta play by the set of rules that you established. If the movie connects, then you have to connect it, and it has to really start mattering. And if it doesn't, then don't.
one last thing, I was thinking about this while you said it because I was thinking like, did all the Marvel films connect in this big way in the beginning? And I don't think they did, but I think what has happened is as an
But they did
audience, we
connect. That
sort
first
of,
one, the
oh,
first
oh,
one dropped Sam. Sam came at the end and he said, "I'm putting a team together," and instantly we knew what they were
right.
doing.
Was okay, that's my point. So in the beginning, the audience has gotten sophisticated over time. So before, we were just excited about team ups,
Yeah.
crossovers. Avengers are fighting Ultron. Cool. Is Ultron going to play out in a big way in the end? No, it doesn't matter. We're seeing the team up. Now we're so sophisticated, we're like, who cares about team ups? Endgame it.
Well, but
like
they're not
like
even putting the new team together.
but even if they added a hero to Ant-Man as an audience, we're so used to seeing crossovers now, it's not special anymore. And that's
Escalation.
okay.
It's what
Oh,
Gordon says about Batman. It's what Gordon says to Batman about escalation of the villains. You started wearing a mask, jumping off rooftops. This
Wearing
guy leaves a
Kevlar,
calling card, right? And so you're like,
right?
hey, man. And that's what I'm talking about. Endgame has escalated and rose the bar so high that you got to stay above the bar now somehow.
Well, but the thing about Endgame is this: before those, as an audience, I think we cared more about team ups than we cared about whatever the big bad was. Endgame gave us the biggest team up we'll ever see.
yeah.
We don't care. Team ups aren't. I don't care if you're going to team up Ant-Man and Spider-Man. I saw the entire Marvel universe at war at the same time. Team ups ain't going
Right.
to do it now.
Right, which is
Team
why it's
ups ain't
hard to
going to do
watch
it
some
now.
of these standalone movies, right? Now we watch the standalone movies going, why isn't Tony getting involved? Or where's Thor at? Or why is they're just watching Manhattan get destroyed? Like,
Dude.
Well,
okay.
I mean, Listen, they can do it because I said before. There's always like if you go into any comic book, there's always some big destruction, world-ending event happening. So naturally, not everyone's going to be able to be a part of that. I was just thinking though, they can do the shows right. Drop the budget because as we all know, they're sitting there trying to put movie budgets into these sitcoms. You drop the budget, right? Build these characters within the show, and then also make the movies. Keep the movie budget where it's at. Maybe escalate it a little bit more, and right, build these characters up. When start adding the big bad hints within the movies, and then like as the characters build up that we've been following for like season 1, season 2, then like somewhere in there, maybe season 2, season 3, they get the invite for the Avengers. Like, hey, we have a need for your skill set. We've been keeping an eye on you.
Mm.
Come on over this way. Let's
That
do
will
this
make people
team.
want to watch the series.
Yeah.
My pitch is, I love that. My pitch is this: act, treat Endgame like it's the end. Captain America retired. Thor's off world. Iron Man died. You use your next phase to build this new team who are struggling to fill the shoes of the last team.
Mm.
Watch this new team of heroes not have what it takes.
Well, especially because so many of the new heroes are just the next version of the same hero.
Right.
We have Ironheart now. We have Hawkeye girl version. We have a new
Black Widow. We have
Black
a new
Widow.
freaking.
Yes, we have the new team that is, the clones of the first team essentially. So
But instead of spending time with them in their movies, you're bringing me Kang. Like, don't bring me Kang until I have the heroes to root for.
right?
Or else what are we doing?
Where's our Captain Falcon? You've established
Right.
him now. Why is he not playing out at all?
Well, I mean, they could still do the Kang because all they did was just get rid of the Kang that was keeping everyone in check.
I'm saying, why introduce the big bad until you give me the heroes to follow? Like, I get that he's coming.
Right.
Who's fighting him? Ant-Man?
I mean, maybe that could be the next movies. It's just
it needs to be.
It's going to have to be. Yeah.
And it can't be watching these heroes have to fight Kang. I need to watch and fall in love with these guys before we get to the My Hero Academia, Rich. We fell in love with those kids before the war hit.
Yeah.
We need that.
But we know that, what's the next thing that's dropping on Marvel's side? Guardians? We know that that's not... Okay, but we know that's not a tie-in to this Kang thing. It's not playing out in that.
Maybe. We don't really know what they're up against, do we?
No, I know that Adam Warlock's going to be in it.
Yeah,
he's not bad.
But they're battling the guy who turned Rocket into a...
Right. Yes.
We do know that the big bad is a guy who, he's got his own planet situation that he's...
It's mad scientist, pretty much.
He's a mad scientist, right. Exactly. But it's not Kang. Kang isn't of this...
Guardians 2 was self-contained, pretty much. Right? He got whatever, the world. It didn't really play into Thanos and all that stuff, really.
True.
So this is going to be maybe self-contained. It's going to be their swan song, which is fine. They earned it. But the next thing that's going to help us. Like, what's the next thing that's going? I think we have the Marvels is coming out, where you have Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau all together as the Marvels. Mm-hmm. That needs to push us somewhere.
Yeah.
You would hope.
Or be sick. Be a sick freaking flick.
But if it's sick, then it needs to just stand alone. But okay. I think we're laboring the point at this.
Yes, we are.
So it's like, shit or get off the pot. Make it count or don't.
Try to actually think about the literal sense of what you just said. Yeah, because why are you just sitting there on your phone?
Thank you.
Holding it in.
Yes. Let it out. Make it count.
Who does that?
Get on with your business.
All right. Well, that's our show. Let us know what you guys think as we kind of rambled on about the current state of Marvel. I think we're all on the same page. Endgame was that good. And yes, Phase 4 was not what we hoped it to be. So hopefully we're going to get more. But either way, they have our money. We're all shills for this content anyway. We all have Disney Plus, so we're just going to buy it anyway. But that's our show. Make sure you like, subscribe. Got the links to the podcast, the social media. Hit those. Hit the playlist. We got reviews. We got toy hunts. We got combos. We got everything here. We'll be back. Same bat time.
Same bat channel.
Peace. What's up, y'all? Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk.